Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast, and thank you for hanging out with us a little bit longer.
I want to get to some of your comments from our Facebook page about helping your teenager or young adult deal with the death of Liam Payne.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, Sam, you said Maddie was very upset about it.
Yeah, Liam from One Direction, when he passed away yesterday, I saw it, and I was like,
You
oh,
let her
hey,
know.
man, I figured I would get back. Yeah, I know. But I was like, what? And then 5 minutes later, I get a picture of her crying.
So you were the one to tell her.
Yeah, and
You didn't mean to.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
texted her that, but it's like,
She was going to find out one way or the other.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was viral and everywhere. And
Taylor's the one that told me, Murph, you know that. Taylor and Phoebe.
Oh, I didn't
At
know
the
that.
same time, they were like, oh.
No, I saw the breaking alert, and what's always amazing to me about this, TMZ always seems to be the first. That was the source that was quoted on this immediately. It's always TMZ that seems to,
Well,
and of course all the speculation and everything that's gone, around it.
well, we have news now. It's been confirmed by the authorities there that he jumped from the balcony of his
really?
hotel room. That was the report just a few minutes ago that came out at the time of us doing this
As in,
podcast.
it was not an accident.
Yeah, he jumped from the balcony. Now, he was not right.
Well,
There was the 911 call that was from the hotel, a personnel at the hotel saying this man is definitely not right, and he's been trashing the room, and we're worried about what he's going to do, and there's definitely either alcohol or drug abuse going on. So that was part of the story
Lead up to it.
that we're getting. And I had posted on our Facebook page, are you having to sort of help your kid through this?
Yeah.
I don't remember if there's been another, the longer you live, you lose people that are a part of your life, but you don't know.
Yeah.
We've all been there, but I don't know if Taylor and Phoebe have had this before. Murphy?
I mean, I think there are a number of different artists, and of course, I'm not going to think of who is the DJ that passed away.
Avicii.
Yeah, Avicii. They were familiar with Avicii, and so it's been experienced before. It's always obviously more surprising when it's somebody who's that young, 31 years
Yes,
old.
so young. Denise said, we are in shock. One Direction was a big part of my daughter's lives, and so mine too. Daniel said, music builds connections, and young people especially connected with these men. My daughter and I met him just as he was making his way on his own. It's so sad, and it's okay to be sad over celebrities or music and artists.
Yeah.
They touched our lives as we grow up.
Jody's always teased me a little bit about that because anytime I hear that kind of news, it's like a family member to me. I know. And
Your reaction is always the same.
Oh, really?
I know, but I do. That social post, that message that just came to us there is the perfect example. Is actually the answer why. That's exactly the way I'm affected. I know that when the day that I heard that Prince passed away, it was like when it is from your teen years.
It's because they help you get through something.
Yeah.
The music, the artistry, whatever it is, it's a part of you and your growing up and your journey too. Andrea said this, I took all three of my daughters to see them. I teach middle school and remember when Zayn left the band, how traumatic it was for that age group. This stung. Kids, young adults, people in general try to hold on to the best version of the celebrities they grow up with, and this one stung. Thank you. Well stated, Andrea.
Yeah.
Well stated.
It's because it is that snapshot in time. They were a super group, and they were assembled, right? I mean, that was
Simon Cowell.
Simon Cowell did it.
right. Put them together.
Yeah, from X Factor. Was it called the X Factor?
Britain's Got Talent or X Factor,
Yeah.
one of those two.
And and I don't want to speculate on any of that because there's no way the word will come out as time goes on, and I'm sure it will be another one of those cautionary tales just about addiction and
mental health. He said he had been open about that apparently.
And I bet that comes from the fact that they were so young when they were superstars. I just have to think that does something to you when you're a teenager yourself and you begin to be on this stage where millions of people are loving you and adoring you at what you do. And like anything else, trends change, times change.
Yeah.
It's probably difficult to adapt to. And I don't know that lets you have a normal teen year in childhood.
Well, remember, Zayn left the band partly
because
for
of that,
reason.
for his own mental reasons.
Yeah.
I was reading deeper about it this morning, and not too long ago, Liam had said yes, it was, the greatest thing for him to be a part of. And it was fantastic in many ways, but it was also a little bit toxic. He said it was just it was a relentless schedule.
Yeah.
And just night after night on stage singing the same 12 songs over and over again. Or he said 20 songs over and over again. And he felt like a Disney character with a costume on where he had to pretend to be something that he wasn't. So he struggled with that.
Well, you think about it too. The 5 guys that are in it. Zane still puts out stuff. Niall does, of course. Harry does.
Is the yeah.
But Louis, I don't think he's really done much. And same with Liam. I know he did do some more music, but it's like they kind of took a back seat.
He was about to release some new music. He was about to release another album. Who knows? It may still come out.
Yeah.
He had a solo album in 2019 called LP1, Liam Payne 1. That's the solo album that he did. And the word is he was literally working with Netflix for something that was going to come out, building the band. He was going to work with Nicole Scherzinger again, and AJ McLean was going to be a part. Was going to be the host.
It was like a new game show, reality kind of series.
Liam was supposed to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So that, of course, will have to change and be put on hold for now. I just wanted to read some of your comments, and we all have, when I heard it, I was like, oh, that's so sad. I'm sure we're going to find out more about it. But that's when Taylor and Phoebe kept bringing it up last night. I was like, oh, right. This means something different to them, because One Direction was a part of that critical, pivotal time in their life.
And kind of the reason you addressed this in the Facebook post is like when the kids feel that kind of loss, I think it's harder, maybe more difficult for them because of not being able to process things. Whereas, Prince was lost and that was terrible. But as an adult, you're able to
yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're in your 20s right now, which Taylor is, she's certainly better equipped to handle it than at that age. And that's a really good point because, how old was I? 11 when John Lennon was shot and killed. And I remember hearing that story in the news. I was, because my dad had introduced me to the Beatles.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, and that was one of those that was shocking and difficult to process. And it just goes to show you, I can picture that moment that I heard that as my alarm clock was going off that morning. That's what I was waking up to.
Yeah.
And so you don't forget that,
Angela said, yes, this was a hard one. My 22-year-old daughter called me last night when the news broke and was nearly speechless. Tina said, my 23-year-old daughter and myself having trouble dealing with this one. Aww.
And it really is, it stings more when you know that they were dealing with some sort of a demon, an issue or whatever, that's Matthew Perry's passing, same thing. You know what I mean? It's tough enough when they just pass of natural causes, but you have this element of compassion all of a sudden that kicks in when you know that they've been dealing with something, and
it gives you a better idea of how serious it can be to be dealing with those things.
And I think the other part of the shock is that when somebody's not directly in the limelight, well, even when they're in the limelight, you still don't know what their personal lives are like. And when they're not in the limelight every day, you don't hear much, and then you hear this happen, and then you hear the backstory about what they've been experiencing for the last couple of years. That's why it was really good to hear Adele. Sam, you did this in Music News a couple of months ago. Is literally stepping back to take a life break, a mental health break for herself. She's, she hit the scene in her early 20s, rapid success, in high demand, everywhere,
and full throttle ever since.
Exactly, and and so she's decided to dial that back for her own sake.
When your way of your contribution to the world is to be out front all of the time, you better have a very strong sense of self, because if you don't, that's why it's so difficult for kids, because you don't have a sense of self yet. You don't know who you are, but the world has an idea of who you are.
Yeah.
So I think you have to work harder to figure yourself out, and we all do that. We all are trying to find who we are. Your sense of self improves as you get older, hopefully.
So, but doesn't it make you wonder, One Direction hit the scene about, what's it been, 14 years now?
Was it 2010?
Yeah.
I think it was 2010.
I think it was 2010. I think you're right. And it's tough enough when you're in it, I think, to maintain that kind of crazy schedule.
even if you're
But
the
how do you-
healthiest person.
But it's weird how some can do it and some can't. The only examples that I can really think of is on the opposite end of the spectrum, the Rolling Stones. They're still getting up and playing the same songs that they've been playing for 60 years. And I know that gets varied up, and they've got a deeper catalog. They've been together longer, but still, you're a human being.
Yeah.
And you're performing the same things that you have. How do you actually mentally get yourself into a place where you just do that and you know that and you handle the schedule?
I think they still really love it.
Yeah.
I don't think Liam loved it. I don't think Louis loved it. I'm sorry. Who left the band?
Zane.
Not. See, I don't know them as well. I know Harry, and that's
Zane. It was the group dynamic, I think, because he has come back and he has put out a lot of music by himself. So I
he was
just think it was
happier, more solitary.
Maybe it was just too much because the group
Correct.
was still going at that point.
Correct.
It's like,
okay.
I got to get out of this.
Okay.
Well, and here's another question. I don't mean to go so deep here with this one, but this just occurred to me. So they were a group that was put together.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly had talent, no doubt on that. But when something is put together and orchestrated for you,
Yes.
and it doesn't mean you're not participating in the artistry, but you've got all of the direction being given to you about how this should be done and how it should be produced. Maybe that's one reason that he feels alienated. The difference between him, again, I know it's a crazy wide example, but between him and Mick Jagger or the Stones.
It's not a crazy example. This was one of the most successful boy bands ever.
Right. So, they created their own music. They came together as a band.
Yeah.
They sat in the studio with instruments and put things together. They had producers and other people helping them, but it's their creative product. It was it totally poured out of them. Whereas a manufactured group like an NSYNC or a Backstreet Boys, some of the others that became really popular, commercially successful because they were literally engineered to be that group.
Yeah.
As the person in that group, that can probably leave you feeling a little lonely or disconnected from it.
Well, I mean, when the five guys, they went on the show to win as a solo singer. I'm going to win this.
Put together.
And then, he says, how about you and you and you and you get together? Well, I'm my own thing. No, you're going to get together now.
Right.
Yeah. I will tell you another little. I did some, research this morning. After we talked about it in 3 Things to Know, and we talked about it in The Outsider. I did a little bit of research because I didn't watch the X Factor when they were put together. And I knew them because of Taylor and Phoebe loving them when they were little, Murphy. But when he auditioned, Liam, he auditioned with "Fly Me to the Moon," Frank Sinatra's version of "Fly Me to the Moon," and that's how he got Simon Cowell's attention.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Simon I read one of the things that Simon had even fingered him as like, you're probably going to be the leader of this group.
Yeah, and so, there's a lot to learn still, but I just wanted to address some of your beautiful comments. If you're a parent, it's a weird thing because you're watching your child, your teenager, deal with this. Maybe it's their first time losing a celebrity. And you've been there, you know what it feels like, and it's they have to just kind of go through it. And so, thank you for sending us your experience with it today. Keep it coming on our Facebook and Instagram pages.
Missed any part of the show? Get it all on the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi podcast.